How's it going, everybody? This is Tammy Barker, Dual Throw Outdoors. Here today to talk about some of what I've noticed are the biggest pros and cons to hunting public land. Now, I'm very fortunate. I've been pretty blessed over the years to have some good success on public land, not just on bucks, but in deer in general. So I think I've seen enough to talk about this. And I've hunted private land too, so I've seen some of the key differences here. So let's start with the pros, because there's not as many of them as there are cons. The biggest pro with hunting public land is you're not locked down to your 100, 50, 40, 30, however big your parcel is. If you're in a section that either isn't producing that year, or however long, you're not bound by it. You can just pull out and move to a different area. Or if you're like me, you try to scout and cover multiple areas. So odds are, if you find sign, and if you find 5 or 6 areas of sign, chances are at least half of them will have deer that are huntable. Some might have the sign from the year before and it's not there the year you go to hunt it. But you're probably not going to go 6 for 6 strikeout for areas with sign. So that's the biggest thing. And the second thing is a little addition to that, but separate, is with the ability to move from area to area on public land. Odds are, if you put your time in and cover a lot of areas, you're going to end up with more shooters than you will on private land. Now, obviously, everybody has different standards for how big or how old of a buck they want to shoot. But whatever that standard is, if you have multiple different areas on multiple different public properties, you're probably going to have more shooters than you will on your 50, 100 acre piece, whatever. Now, if you're getting into 6, 7, 800 acres or more, maybe not, but most guys don't have that. So the next thing is, obviously, compared to lease or owning your own land, public land's cheaper. Public land, all you need is the cost of your license and your gear. You still need your license and gear on private land, but you're going to need that lease price or your land taxes price. Now, yes, there are some free permission properties, but they're becoming harder and harder to find as time goes on. And for out-of-state hunting, same deal. You're going to pay a little more for your out-of-state license than your in-state license. And obviously still the same price for your gear, and a little bit for your lodging and food, but that's still going to be a lot cheaper than the $3, $4, or $5 grand you're going to pay for an outfitter. And this is more of a Pennsylvania thing, but I'm sure it applies in other states too. Is the last pro I have for public land is a lot of state game lands in Pennsylvania and state forests. You're able to apply for DMAP tags. Whereas on private land, unless you're the landowner and you get DMAP tags that way, chances are you're just going to have your normal wildlife management unit tag for that piece of private property. Or even in some cases, I know there are multiple landowners who will say, hey, you can hunt here, but you can only take 1 buck and don't shoot any does. So that happens as well. Where in public land, you can normally, like I said, on game land or state forest, you can usually get 2 DMAP tags for an area. So if your person's just trying to fill the freezer, whether you have high or low trophy standards for your bucks, that's an advantage and a pro. Now we get to the cons of hunting public land. First one is you have to deal with theft. You have to deal with potential theft. Trail cameras, whether you're running cell cameras or standard SD card cameras, chances are if you don't lock them, there's a good chance they get stolen. I just had one stolen this past season. Thankfully, it's my oldest and cheapest camera, but still. The second thing that kind of goes hand in hand with this is, unlike private land, you're legally not allowed to leave stands up all season on public land. For convenience sake, private land, you can have a stand, you can set your stands up in the spring, let deer get used to them, whereas on public land, you legally have to put them up 2 weeks before season and take them down 2 weeks after season. And yes, you also have to deal with possibly them getting stolen as well. Next con is 9 times out of 10, there's less deer on public land than private land. Now, I know there's states like Maryland that have a high deer concentration, Kentucky, states like that, but most states with big woods like Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, compared to, farms in those same states from private land, the deer count's not even remotely close, which can help you for your buck hunting, but for just seeing deer, there are definitely less deer on public land. Another big thing is safety. I just dealt with a situation the last day of extended rifle season where I was hunting with a friend, and someone shot at a deer that my friend was standing between, and the hunter had no regard for him being in that area. Whereas on private land, you can control who's on the property or not, and even if you can't control who's on the property, you know who's there because it's private land, aside from trespassing issues. The other thing is, another con is with public land, is you have no control whatsoever over what food plots are or are not planted, what habitat improvements are made. You're at the mercy of whatever the state chooses to do or not to do. Whereas private land, if you're in your land, you can obviously manipulate that. And yes, I do understand some leases and obviously permission, you can't do a lot of stuff, but when you own your own land, you can obviously do what you want. And the biggest thing, the biggest con for public land is you have to work a lot harder for your deer hunting wise. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that, there's guys on private land who put a lot of time into their food plots, their habitat management. I'm not taking anything away from that, but from a hunting perspective and finding the deer, that's definitely a lot more work on public land than private land, with the only exception being those smaller private parcels that get a lot of pressure. So those are my pros and cons for hunting public land. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Do you agree with me? Did I miss some? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching this Duel Through Outdoors video. If you like this video, be sure to leave it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more Duel Through Outdoors content.